I guess we're good to go. What's up, man?
All right, we're on. Episode 10 as we just...
Can you believe that we're at episode 10 already?
I kind of do and kind of don't. I don't know where I'm at it, but it seems like we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
So...
don't take this the wrong way.
Yeah, I feel that way.
All right, don't take this the wrong way, but you're walking in, and I noticed you were walking a little funny. Everything okay?
A little okay. I the workouts in the morning, I get a little aggressive.
Did you push it too hard?
I banged, I banged it up a little bit. Give myself, I used to call it the old-fashioned Charlie horse. Remember they used to call that? Right on the side, like, ow. It's like...
Were you trying to squat 500 pounds again?
No, it was just swinging the weight, just being a little reckless. I was actually doing a curl and just kind of came down. Just a little
reckless.
A little reckless.
That's all right. Okay. All right, well, listen, everybody, we have a great show planned for you today. We're going to have Tracy, Lenord-Warner on with us, Shelby Pedersen. We're going to start with Annette Sellers, and you're going to learn about this incredible organization called A New Leaf. We are live from the Kiln, so everybody hang tight. Yep. We're going to get a word from our sponsors really quick, and then we'll be right back to kick off the podcast, okay?
Absolutely.
All right,
Thank
see
you.
everybody in just a sec.
What makes Bella Set lingerie so unique? For starters, check out the vast selection and size range. Cups from A to K in styles like balcony, plunge, wireless, strapless, and more, including mastectomy and maternity bras. With superior customer service and free professional fittings, it's the go-to bra shop in the East Valley. Locally owned, with 2 locations in Ahwatukee and Gilbert. Check out our glowing reviews on Google and Yelp. Visit bellasetlingerie.com to learn more.
Well, welcome back to our podcast. So great to have everyone here today, and we're welcoming in a fresh face. How do you know Annette?
I don't.
Let's meet this woman then.
We actually spoke on the phone, so it's not our first encounter, but meeting in person we just did today here at the wonderful Kiln. Which is
a new spot for us.
New spot, great venue.
And potentially, I know you're not supposed to say this because it's that whole thing of like, don't pick your favorite child, but this is one of my favorite venues we've recorded our podcast in.
Okay.
And we've had some great spots. That's no disrespect to the other places, but this place is unbelievable.
Is it because everywhere you look, there's kind of a different look?
Yes.
It's like you look at this corner, they're doing this. Yeah, they really did a hard look at that when they developed it.
So Annette Sellers is with us today to talk about A New Leaf. But first I want to learn a little bit about you.
Sure.
I mean, how does somebody even get involved in this organization, which has got so many different pillars to it? I know really kind of 7 pillars it boils down to for A New Leaf. And there's a few in there where I look at somebody like you or any woman or man that would be in your position, I'd say, okay, so why do you do what you do? Which one of these 7 pillars struck a chord with you and you're like, this is the work I have to do now?
Absolutely. So thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate being here. Shelter and housing, such an important aspect in today's community. That's what tugs at my heartstrings. I've been in the homeless space just over 4 years, contributing to the homeless space in a previous role by way of volunteering, which is how I got engaged in working with folks who are living in shelter and low income or the nonprofit space. But A New Leaf gives me an opportunity. Here's the personal side. I, 20 years ago, divorced with 2 8-year-olds and a 6-year-old. I had no child support, and I worked hard and found myself very blessed to never find myself in a position that these men or women are in. Always on the verge, working paycheck to paycheck, hoping to God I had enough to pay mortgage or to get food or whatever the case might be, but never quite over the hill like some of these folks are today. With that, for me, it was an opportunity to come into a space like this and share the blessings with those who were not blessed so that they too can get to the other side of the fence and just have the opportunity to live a very fruitful life.
Okay, so I want to ask you one question, then I know you've got some stuff you want to talk to her about too, Steve. But there's been a lot in the news about our homeless community and here in Phoenix specifically. And I happen to be privy to A New Leaf and about 4 other organizations that are really in the trench doing the work. And I'm asking you this question very intentionally. We have a really, in my opinion, a messed up view of this homeless and houseless community that's out there. We tend to look at these group of people like they're second-class citizens and they don't matter. But what I've come to understand is man, it can be like literally one or two things that, as you said, puts you over the hill.
Yeah.
And now you're on the other side of that mountain. So can you help our audience understand how people are finding themselves in a houseless or homeless situation?
Absolutely. So, and you are correct. I think there's a miscommunication when it comes to what kind of people are homeless. There are people out there struggling from mental illness, struggling from PTSD, struggling from things in their past that have taken them down. It could be drug addiction. Those people are typically not the ones knocking on our doors, asking for assistance or looking for shelter. The people looking for shelter typically have jobs, can't make ends meet, find themselves toting children that are now out of a stable environment because they found themselves homeless. It's hard today with the price of housing, with what rent costs, with the opportunities that are available to those and the resources, limited funding to help those folks that are trying to make a go of it. So I'll share an example. We have a young man, for example, that lived in our East Valley Men's Shelter. This young man is in his mid to late 20s, riding his bike to work, doing what he does every single day, and gets hit by a car. He sustained serious injuries, ended up in the hospital for a great period of time, then went to rehab and PT, and in the loss of all of that, no work, very limited resources, and loses his place to live. Where do you go? So he comes out of the hospital or his rehab and he's, a little perplexed. Now what do? I don't have family here. So many people are transplants. How do I get the resources that I need? So he came through the housing shelter program, which is how many people find us. And he lived at our men's shelter for quite a period of time to get back on his feet, put some money away, get back into the workforce, but have a place to call home while he does all of that. So there's so many stories. The stories are just layered.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, because this is an issue that needs to be humanized a lot more than it is. And I'm grateful for that story. I have several others that are just like that, right? Where guys are just, they are a job away or a hospital bill away from finding themselves in a place where they need that kind of assistance.
And she pointed something out, an injury away, which means really it cuts off a lot of people's livelihood. If you're in, like so many men are, trades, construction.
Riding your bike to work.
Yeah.
Right.
It doesn't, if you can't get up and you can't do that work, you're out of business. So that's a tough one too. And my question, really, it was you painted an inspiring story from it. I wanted you to share, somebody who's come through on that other end, and that again, somebody like that from the beginning to the end. That's really inspiring.
Yeah, there is a lot of help out there. It's just finding the resources, and oftentimes people stumble over where do they look first. I carry a little card in my wallet. It's got every hotline on it you could imagine, from housing and shelter to domestic violence, sexual violence, whatever someone might need. And I pass these cards out on a regular basis. A New Leaf puts them out for public use because people just don't know where to start. So I think it's really important that people know there are resources out there and others willing to help them.
Let's go right to that space then, because there are 7 pillars that they're working with at a New Leaf, and domestic violence is one of them. Sexual abuse is another one. There's the homeless and houseless situation that you mentioned. Foster care. There's the financial literacy piece. There's the health and wellness piece. So somebody's found themselves in a spot where they know that, I just can't make it work anymore. What is that? Is it calling your guys' phone number and saying, "Hi, my name is Matthew, and man, life sucks right now. Can you help?"
Yeah. So not so much calling a New Leaf's phone number. There are several of us in the system, as you mentioned, that are providing housing or shelter to a lot of folks in the community. The first step is to call the hotline. There is a managed state hotline that is connected to all of us in this space so that they can understand what your needs are. For example, our men's shelter in Mesa only takes men, and they must be 18 and older. So they're vetted. We have domestic violence shelters, and what is the need from that standpoint? If all the shelters are full, we have in that domestic violence shelter space, DV Stop, where we just go out and start renting hotel spaces just for the safety of the family. So they do go through a mass housing hotline where it is controlled as to who's going where and how they're going or why they're going, because we all have a little bit different criteria.
I have to share with you, if you don't mind, one of my favorite stories. So when I got to the Valley in 2010, I started doing a lot of work with the Sojourner Center. And for those who don't know, that's domestic violence through in and throughout. I think that's what they're about. And I came to see and meet, obviously, so many incredible people at the Sojourner Center. But we were at a gala one time, and I learned about this motorcycle gang. Have you ever heard of this?
You know this story.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so this is amazing. I never knew about this. And so we're at this gala, and everybody's dressed up and they're fancy, but everybody can clearly see in the back of the corner of the gala is a biker gang. Like they're literally leather head to toe. They've got their jackets on.
There's a biker gang
There's
here.
a biker gang here, and they have like 2 tables. And what we came to learn about this biker gang was they were the kind of people who took their bikes to your house, and they parked in your driveway to make sure that your abuser, if he decided to come home, would have to get through them first.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's
Hairs on your back kind of cool stuff.
Yeah.
Like, there's such a stereotype on
There
the
is.
biker gang, and look what these dudes were
Yeah.
doing. I was so inspired by that story.
Safety is first and foremost, utmost important. This being Domestic Violence Awareness Month, we spend the entire month of October really honoring survivors and giving others the chance to come forward. It is the most underreported form of abuse.
1 in 4?
Very small. Yeah, it's a very small percentage. And it really just making people aware of the fact that the stigma that goes along with it, most people are shameful, or it's not me, or, why don't you just leave? Well, when you have children and you have a pet that the children love and you have stability for those children and all of their belongings, it's really hard to say, why don't you just leave?
It is.
It would be easier to go to the abuser and say, why don't you just leave?
And that's what should happen, but
Right. It's not always the case. So I think that's important that people understand. The resources out there are huge. And they'll quote that a domestic abused person, whether it be a male or a female, it doesn't necessarily always fall on the female, will go back to their abuser up to 7 times before they'll really, truly step away. And we have some great success stories surrounding domestic violence and people who've really gotten out from underneath their abusers and moved to a solid space. Channel 12 just ran a story a couple of weeks ago where we had a great success story like that. He got out of prison and he found her, and it didn't end up so successful. It is really tragic that it's something that cannot be controlled within inside of our communities. So it's a big deal.
But it's so awesome that we're here talking about it,
Yeah.
because these are the types of subjects that don't get enough attention. And, there's just not enough people sitting down and talking about this part of it. But these are the wounds that, man, these generationally impact people.
Absolutely.
And then let's throw the curveball in with the economy, which we know a lot of people, has hit a lot of people hard. The state of the state, inflation, groceries, gas, accessories, make it even tougher. What have you seen? Is the economy had an effect on this? What have you seen in the last couple of years?
Sure. And the state has done some statistic work in this manner as well. I'm preparing for a presentation tonight as well here for 100 Plus Women Who Cares. So I just got this statistic. January through September of this year, Arizona released staggering numbers, record-breaking numbers, 65,500, and I think it was 51 evictions from January to the end of September. That's huge. I don't think people realize the impact. 65,000 evictions.
So you're saying that's record breaking?
Record breaking
there we
for
go.
Maricopa County.
So the economy does have, I mean, that's a direct effect.
Yeah, the closest year to that was 2016, where we also saw a decline in the economy, but we beat it by almost 500 evictions. Where do all of those people go? And
Right.
if you think the average family could be 3 people, maybe a parent or 2 parents and a child, or a parent and 2 children, times 65,000. That's a lot of people.
And what rents are in today's day and age, you're talking about a family. I mean, seriously, like it.
Bro, it's so tough.
Yeah,
It's so tough.
I mean, it'll knock you back. I mean, and let's face it. Even those who are making it, sometimes if you sit down and have a conversation, will say like, "Yeah, I'm barely making it." So then you look at the other side, and you're saying, "Holy smokes!"
Well,
I mean, really.
and all
Affordable
these
housing.
all these
Affordable
things
housing.
lend to layers of problems. and
Affordable
that's-
housing. Where is the partnerships with the cities and private sector? I mean, are there projects going on? It seems like it should be solvable. I mean, we've got empty hotels.
It is 100% solvable.
I mean, you've got there's empty there's empty properties all over the place. And I know like sometimes it's too heavy on just the public sector, the government, and private sector. There's got to be incentivized for people, and money's tough. Do they have programs like out there? Are there people trying to partner to do these things?
Absolutely. So I'll share with you as well. We originated in Mesa. We have an excellent partnership with the city of Mesa, and Mayor Giles has been extremely supportive of what's been happening with inside of our community. The city has taken over a hotel and now took over the Grand Hotel.
Didn't know that. That's
there
great.
are homeless living in the old Windermere, and now they've taken over the Grand Hotel. There was another hotel off Alma School in the 60s. We called it Phoenix Bridge. The city filled it with the zone, and we operated Phoenix Bridge for them. It has since shut down, and those folks have been moved around. But I'll share with you as well. Our first domestic violence shelter, Autumn House, came to us through the city of Mesa. The city of Mesa said, we have this house. It has some little apartments behind it. We realize we have a domestic violence issue with inside of our community. This was back in, I think Dana just quoted 1998. It was quite a ways back. But will you take over this shelter, and will a New Leaf run it as a domestic violence shelter? So our partnership with them has since completely grown. We have La Mesita, which is over near Dobson and University. We have a 3rd complex over there. We're breaking ground in the spring on a 4th complex, which will be La Mesita Phase 4. It is rapid rehousing, so it's shelter. It's low-income housing, and it's affordable or voucher housing as well. So there's great opportunity there. Phase 4 will break ground. We're hoping to get LIHTC funding with that. That's the low-income tax credit. We've applied for it, and we have to reapply for it again. But it will house, it's really going to focus on seniors who are now our most vulnerable, seniors and veterans. But we just broke ground last month with the city of Mesa on a project at our East Valley Men's Center, which is 32 apartment units of transitional housing for the men at the center. So absolutely, the cities help us.
Well,
Phoenix
Annette,
steps up, Mesa steps up.
Annette, she caught me up to speed. Boy, oh boy, there's all sorts of partnerships going on.
There's so many stories.
That's exciting. Well, I mean, you know what? That's what I like to talk about. I mean, we know this is going on, but people who are providing solutions. I mean, instead of just consistently wandering around and talking about the same problems.
Well, this is why I wanted to bring this up, because
Yeah.
so many people sit out there and they complain about the world and this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, do you even see organizations like A New Leaf in your backyard and what they're doing? Yeah, you're going to tell me the world's terrible? Go down and spend an afternoon with this group of people and the work that they're trying to do, and then try to convince me that everything's crappy, right? So I know you're here because tonight it's the 100 plus women who care. You're going to be presenting to this group of women. Do you want to rehearse? Do you want to give us a little bit of your speech that you're going to give to them? We'll tell you if it's going to be worthy of not.
Yeah. So obviously this group is extremely passionate about helping nonprofits throughout the community. We meet quarterly. We have the opportunity to hear from 3 different organizations. I just happen to be one that got the opportunity to be pulled from the hat last quarter.
So cool.
It's an opportunity for 100 plus women to hear about 3 other agencies or nonprofits within inside of our community who are doing good. It enlightens you to know what opportunities there are to help with inside of our community. Yes. But all 3 present the membership base votes on a favorite charity, if you will, and we all donate $100 to that charity.
So everybody gets 10 grand.
Over 100 members, it's over $10,000 in a quarter that these ladies give away. So I'm blessed. I'm excited to
fingers crossed for you tonight.
Yeah,
I'm out there, but you know what? It's all for a good cause.
Yeah.
That's the
There's going to be a
important
winner
part.
tonight. We know that. There will be a winner. So.
All worthy causes. Absolutely.
Annette, thank you for enlightening our group of people that listen to this podcast. Thanks for
my
doing the work you
pleasure.
do at A New Leaf, and we really appreciate that. Let us know how we can be allies, okay?
Yes.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you both.
Thank you for everything.
All right,
Thanks for what
Steve,
you do.
why don't we do this? Let's take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to sit down with our local legend today from ICAN. This is a woman named Shelby Pedersen. So hang tight. That's coming up right after this.
See you soon.
Well, welcome back to our Move the Needle podcast. We are about to sit down with Shelby Pedersen. Can I tell you why I'm excited to talk to Shelby Pedersen? It's the silliest reason in the world. Please don't laugh at me.
Right.
So, okay, I don't usually talk about this very much, but you know, my real last name is Anderson. A lot of people don't know that. I've been Matthew Blades for like 30 years, and so that's how it goes. But when you're an Anderson, the first question that somebody asks you is that with an O-N or an E-N?
Yes.
I know where you're going with this.
And Shelby is an E-N.
I am. And all D's, it's awful. It's confusing.
And
Yeah.
I've had to double check because we've had our engagements
Oh,
before
I
on the
spelled
calls.
it wrong the first time.
Yeah, I've had to actually double check
Yeah.
today.
I have my Norwegian husband to thank for
So wonderful to meet an E-N. Because I don't
Likewise.
meet very many E-Ns. We're all O-Ns, right?
Yeah.
This is
that.
such
Ian's
a
where it's at.
Yeah. Okay.
good.
Listen, I believe you. I believe you. Well, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. What do you got, Steve?
I've got, so excited because how many of our past guests have mentioned ICAN?
Oh my
been
gosh. I feel like
associated
every
with
one of
it.
them.
I love
and
that.
here we go, and now we're gonna have a whole segment where we get a chance to spend time and really find out all about this.
Why? Because we can.
Exactly.
Yes.
So tell
Love
us
it.
about it.
Tell us, what's your role within the organization for those that don't know?
So I'm the CEO at ICAN. I've been in that role for about 9 years now, and I love it. It's a lot of fun.
How has the job changed in the last 3 years?
Oh my goodness, the job has changed just considerably. I started in 2016, and that was all pre-COVID,
Sure.
right? Hate to bring up COVID, but it changed my job dramatically.
I'm in this seat because of COVID, I think. So I think a lot of people are.
But
It's
in
all right.
in a good way,
Yeah,
I
sure,
think, in the long run, right? It was challenging, but over time, really it forced us to change our program model, and we went from having one site to having 5 sites since COVID, and so we're serving a lot more kids. We're more responsive to the needs at the school level, so we've grown a lot since then. So my job's just gotten more and more complicated and more fun.
Explain what ICAN is in a nutshell for people that don't know.
Yes, so ICAN's a youth serving organization. We have about 700 kids in our care every year across 5 sites, 3 in Chandler, 2 in Mesa. And our program's all about giving kids positive youth development experiences. So think about when you were a kid, did you do robotics club? Did you do after school sports, any kind of, recreational enrichment activities after school? A lot of schools have those resources, and parents typically have to pay for them. And that can get really expensive. So what ICAN does, our founder was really big on making sure all kids have access. Henry Salinas. Yes. Ooh, good job.
1991.
1991. Yes. You could do this for me. This is great.
Come on.
You don't need me.
Yeah.
He was really big on making sure that every kid had access, despite a family's ability to pay.
Yeah.
So what he created was a program where kids could come every day after school, have a safe environment, get food, have sports activities, healthy living, youth enrichment activities, academic support, workforce readiness, STEM education. I mean, you name it, we do it. And we have probably 50 or so core partners that help bring different content.
Yeah.
And we serve kids ages K through 12.
I think it's just the coolest thing in the world, man.
Oh, and did I mention it's all free?
It's because of
all free
of your donor base and the programs
because
and
we have an
partnerships that you
amazing
have.
community,
Yes.
and also because we really believe in equity and access, and that's a huge deal in a school that may or may not have access. So our program is both a child care for moms and dads, but then a really fun experiential learning space for kids.
Oh, I have so much I want to talk to her about.
Yeah.
But I know you have questions too, so I want to respect that.
My question is this: obviously, 9 years in the seat. Obviously, you said you've been through that. How has the youth development evolved since that time?
It's evolved a lot. Probably the two most outstanding things that really stick out in my mind. Number one is the need for academic support. Okay. We have always been really focused on positive skill building. So you might come into an ICAN program pre-COVID and you're seeing kids working on a project together, building a robot together, doing something hands-on fun in the after-school setting. Post-COVID, we've created a lot more space for academic support. We have a lot of schools and a lot of kiddos that are behind in math, they're behind in reading, and they're needing a lot more support. So today, when you walk in, youth development looks a lot more academic. So we have tutors that work with kids, or we'll have volunteers come in and do literacy programs, you name it, just trying to get kids a little bit more assistance with their work at school.
Have you seen them get up to speed? Have you seen some success stories? Can you share some of those?
Absolutely. It's a long ball. It's a long game, right?
Sure.
So you're working with kids over the course of the year to help them get caught up. But yeah, absolutely. One of our more recent success stories happened over summer. We had a young woman, she's a fifth grader, and was not reading she was probably reading at a kindergarten, first grade level, to be honest. Yeah. And she spent all summer with us and was testing, almost a grade above where she started at the end of our summer, which is great. Summer's one of those really tricky time frames because kids have a lot of learning loss during that time frame. We're lucky in Chandler and Mesa because the summer is a lot shorter, 6-7 weeks, but that's a lot of time for a kid to forget everything they've learned. And if they're already starting behind, that's tough.
Who uses you and how do they use you and who are you for? I mean, I'm just thinking of all these great programs and maybe I'm a mom or a dad and I've caught wind of this podcast and I'm listening and going, oh my God, this sounds incredible. Can I send my kids?
Yeah, I get that a lot.
Can my kids be a part of this?
My 11-year-old asks me that.
I believe
why
it.
isn't there an ICAN at my school? We are for a very specific community.
Okay.
We really operate and target our services toward Title I schools. So for those who are not in the academic and the education world, that is a school that has a large population of kiddos on free and reduced school lunch at their school. So it's a good indicator of a family that has other needs, right? They need support with their school lunch provision, so they probably need help with childcare as well and after school support. So we target Title I schools.
I love that. You know, I founded Title I Tech.
Did you really?
Is an organization that I founded with Lloyd Hopkins, and we have passed out more than 900 laptops to families here in the Valley in the last.
That's awesome.
Since the day the pandemic hit, we got to work. I had, it's a long story. We'll share it for another time. But yeah, we've been really active in the Title I community. And before that, I was doing a program called Cards for Kids, where we probably plopped down $250,000 on Title I schools. And we would walk in 2 weeks before Christmas and we would give every single member of the entire school a $50 gift certificate to Walmart.
That's awesome.
It was
Thank you for that.
unbelievable.
Thank you. That's great.
Thank you for sharing that. That's something. Proud of you.
Oh, well, thanks, man. I mean, it's like it's a real labor of love. I love, as you can see. I mean, because, and we kind of talked about this with our last guest. It's like we have a tendency to look at a group of people And we designed this opinion about them.
Yeah.
But man, I'm telling you, when I'm in these Title I schools, I fall in love with these kids.
Oh,
they
yeah.
are so energetic. They're so passionate. They are so smart.
Kids
Yep.
are kids.
Yep.
Are kids are kids.
It's
I mean, that's
just
what it comes
awesome.
down to. I mean, we peel back the curtain, that's really what it is.
And they just want an opportunity to be a kid.
That's
want a
right.
chance.
And not
That's
have
right.
to and not have to deal with all these other responsibilities that they all too often get thrust into.
They turn into,
No, I was just going to
they
say,
turn into adults.
I always say talent is distributed equally. So you'll see kids in any community you go to with talent. It's opportunity that's not distributed equally.
There it is.
So we're about distributing more opportunity more equally.
What do you think about during the day, and what are the daydreams of the CEO? Of,
Oh, I love this
man,
question.
what could I get done if I would love to do this, but I'm gonna need that.
Sure. I love this question. So my daydream, and I share this with our community of supporters, we have a really active board and an amazing group of supporters, is to serve a lot more students. In the state of Arizona, there's about 500,000 kids that would benefit from a no-cost program like this. And that's really, we track that number every year based on the number of kids that are enrolled in schools that don't have access to programs like this. So it's almost 500,000 children in Arizona.
We have
So-
580. The last numbers that I had access to, there's 580 Title I schools just in Maricopa
Yeah.
County.
Yep. That's right. Yeah.
Wow.
I know you hear that and you think about
Yeah.
all the zip codes we have here in the valley, and you're like, wait, what?
Right.
But
right.
it is you could easily get to half a
It would
million
be
people.
endless work, right?
Yes.
Like endless work. And I know in no way, shape, or form will we ever tackle that alone, right? That's crazy pipe dream. However, if we have the opportunity to partner closely with our districts, with other organizations, we have phenomenal collaborations with Boys and Girls Clubs and other organizations. Could we not raise the profile on the importance of these type of programs for students, both academically and for their personal well-being, and get our legislature to fund after school in a more serious way? They're funding it a little bit, but my daydreams
Yes.
are all about creating more funding for this type of program. If you think back on your childhood, the reason you pick your career, it's not because, most of the time, it's not because you were sitting in a test and excelling, getting A's on certain things in school, right? It was the enrichment, the recreational things, the experiences that you had all throughout your educational journey. And that's huge. We got to give more kids opportunities to experiment.
Well, and that's why we started this program, Move the Needle, because working with people like you, Shelby, that move the needle, that we can get this word out to the communities more. That's what this is about. And we want to change the landscape by coming in the communities, doing these live, bringing you on and getting the word out so we can be part of this, Matthew. We can be part of the success story, part of the growth. Because my next question is fast forward 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yes, fast forward 10
Are you
years.
still in your job? Are you doing this
I don't
19
know.
years?
Gosh, here's what I will promise, and my board will no doubt listen to this. This organization means a lot to me, and I've been involved for a long time, as I mentioned. ICAN will always have a place in my life. So whatever it looks like at 10 years down the road, it'll still be part of my life. It'll always be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And specifically, what dream do you have for some of these kids going through ICAN?
Oh, that's such a hard question because each kid's journey is so different, right? We have some kids who their aspiration is to, become a barber when they grow up. They want, they encountered somebody who did that and they want to be a barber. They want to have that personal connection with somebody in a chair every day and talk with them. We have students who want to be nurses. The variety of what their aspirations are is so wide. Students who want to go into the military and want to be teachers, you name it.
So just to be part of that. Just
to be part
journey.
of their journey to explore and broaden their horizons. I think the work that after school programs have the opportunity to do is to help kids widen the lens, to see what's possible for their future, to touch and feel something that they wouldn't have necessarily had an opportunity to. It takes me back a couple of years ago. We had, I believe it was Avnet came in and they did a girls tech program with us, and it was only for girls. I think it was 4th grade, and none of them were excited about this program. They were like, we don't really want to do this. We have to build a computer. That sounds terrible. About a week later, program wraps. It was all female engineers that came in and did the program with the kids, and every single one of them was like, I had no idea that was amazing. I loved it. Can I do it again? And it's those type of things where you're really showing kids a practical application of math or a practical application of science, the stuff that might be scary, and they've formed an opinion that they're not good at that, and that's just not real. They just need to see it.
Part of your job is to help this community with those limited beliefs.
Yes.
And it really is. Like, I mean, if you peel back the layers of what an organization like yours has the opportunity to do, it's like to peel that back for them so they can see their potential and feel like, I used to have a old buddy of mine, and his old joke was, you can pay for sports or you can pay for bond. And what he was saying is like, give kids an opportunity to do something in their community, or you can pay for the incarceration and all of the things that happen. And I have the great fortune of speaking at the Durango Detention Center. And so I spend a lot of time with these teenage kids who have found themselves in a really tough situation. And I will tell you, and this, the common thing that I hear from every one of these kids is how much free time they have and how they have no supervision once school ends. Yeah. And that's when they find themselves in all the trouble.
Yeah.
Hey, we could talk. We could have our own conversation about that. We know that, for us, even that's when the stuff either happened, good or bad. You were part of sports, or you were running with the wrong crowd, and and sometimes there was a little bit a part of both. I mean, and that's part of growing up.
There's research around that. The top times of the day and of the week, actually, for call it juvenile delinquency, call it youth criminal activity. It's after school hours. It's not what you'd expect.
All right. So, how do we get involved with ICAN? How does somebody who's listening to us right now decide that somebody, let's go at it from this point, because I realize that's a vague question. How do I get involved with the fundraising? How do I get involved with being a contributor to this situation?
My other favorite question. I love this.
How do I write a check?
We are a grassroots organization, so individuals who are willing to donate anything from $1 to $1 million, we will put it to good use. So somebody who wants to get involved should check our website out, www.icanaz.org, ICANAZ.org. And there's volunteer information on there. There's links to donate. We have a lot of different ways people can contribute. There's tax credits. ICAN qualifies as a qualified charitable organization. So you can actually get a tax write-off by donating money to ICAN, which is awesome. There's so many ways. So I encourage people to get on our website and then to check out our social media. We have a really robust social media. Lots of friendly faces, smiling kids.
Good for you. Thank you so much, Shelby, for being on our podcast.
I love those positive stories. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's Shelby Pedersen with an EN, everybody. And she's over at ICAN. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, you're going to learn about Ryan House. And we're going to sit down with our Move the Needle guest this week on the podcast. We'll see you in a minute. So it's time to sit down on our Move the Needle podcast with our Move the Needle guest.
Yes.
And I'm excited about this one, man. Tracy Lenord-Warner is joining us, and there's a lot of people that are going to want to throw an apostrophe S on the back of this, but we're not going to let them, are we?
No, we're not.
We're not going to let them. It is Ryan House.
We got it right.
You got it.
I got it right. I know these guys.
Ryan House. They support families, siblings. They take care of people when they find themselves at the most difficult stages of end of life. There's so much behind this robust organization.
Absolutely.
Before we jump into that, as we like to do on this podcast, I want to learn a little bit about you.
Yeah, what do you want to know?
I want to know how'd you end up in this role that you've been in for the last 7 years?
So I started my career at the bedside as a music therapist. Actually I know.
Like what did you do?
I worked with kids with disabilities when I first started, and then I joke I happened into adult health care by accident.
Would you sing or play?
Yeah, both. We did a lot of pain management, relaxation. I worked mostly oncology and bone marrow transplant for almost 20 years. Wow. And then I got smart and I went back to pediatrics.
Wow.
So,
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yes, I learned all about, we got a chance to spend some time, and she shared some of the stories with me about, I learned about her music past, and I just think it's amazing. I just can't wait to dive into
Well,
this.
there's a whole group of people that are at every hospital and every difficult kind of these child life specialists is what they call them, and there's an amazing organization of people that are there by the bedside of all of these folks. And I'm not saying you were a child life specialist, but you're a part of that community that is with people on the hardest parts of the hardest days of their lives.
Yeah,
What
I
an
spent
honor.
most of my career working with, either kids with severe disabilities or adults at end of life. So
Do you find it that way? Do you see it
Oh,
as an honor?
absolutely.
'Cause it
Absolutely.
really is.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Tell me about Ryan House.
Yeah.
So our biggest mission is to provide respite to families. And that is families whose child has a life-limiting condition. So for the most part, usually not expected to live into adulthood, but we'll kind of talk about that. And really give these families a break from caregiving. These families are providing care to their child 24/7. These are kids who are medically fragile. Families really have become their nursing care. And we know that there's a nursing shortage in the United States. And so some of these families are finding nurses. Some of them are finding nurses part of the day. Some of them aren't finding nurses. Some of them are becoming their child's full-time caregiver in addition to being their parents. And these are not kids who others really feel comfortable providing that level of care to. So these aren't kids who you could drop at grandma and grandpa's for the weekend and say, hey, I need a break. Can you help? And so that's where we step in. And we provide up to 28 days a year for families to get a break. And those are all short stays, but usually between 3 and 7 days at a time. Kids come to us, and we'll talk about all the amazing things they do while they're with us. But really, the family is the one who gets a break. And that time may be spent with other siblings. It might be spent with each other. It might just be spent, sleeping. So.
Yeah. And we've, on other podcasts, we've actually spoke about this and how much the people behind the parents really what they go through.
Oh yeah,
and
such a tough spot.
Emotionally, physically, it just all the way around.
Yeah.
So
Well, and then you add in these layers of maybe I've got siblings, right? And now mom and dad are focused so much on the kiddo who needs the most help, and other people get left behind, and so your organization supports siblings too, which I actually think is a neat anchor, a neat pillar.
Absolutely. We actually have an event coming up for siblings this weekend. We try to do them quarterly with our partners at another organization. But, recently one of our parents shared with me that her daughter made the comment that just recently it was the first time she got to go to the movies with both parents because her brother was staying with us. And she's a teenager. And they're one of those families that has to divide and conquer to make sure that everybody's needs are met. And just, what an impact that had on her getting to go to the movies with both of her parents, which I think are things that some of us take for granted. So
well, that story just touched my heart, and I was actually going to ask you, can you share a story that particularly touched your heart?
Yeah.
And that was one that touched
absolutely.
my heart.
Another parent
amazing.
had one summer, her daughter came and stayed with us for a week while she took her son on college tours, which is something that she couldn't have done with her daughter. Her daughter has a seizure disorder and doesn't travel well. And again, as a single parent in this case, how do you decide which child to give that time and attention to? And the fact that we can care for her daughter while she does give that care and attention to her son is really important.
Is this one of those organizations that most people don't know about until they need to know about it?
Oh yeah.
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 And then
Yeah.
that in itself is like the hardest part, I would think, for most parents, is they finally get to that point where they go, okay, I might need some help here.
Yeah. And a lot of families are hesitant. If you can imagine, you have a child with a life-limiting condition, you're providing all of the care that keeps them alive every day. To trust that somebody else is going to provide that care is really hard. And I hear families a lot that have said, we waited and we waited and we waited and we finally did it, and I can't believe we waited so long.
Yeah. It's all scary, I'm sure, for them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because nobody does it like you. You think of like how anal you are about your laundry.
Yeah.
Right? And
then
we're
you
not
got-
even talking, we're talking about kids
Yeah,
here.
we're talking layers.
Yes.
Again, like we're talking
Yeah,
layers
absolutely.
deep. So, no,
Absolutely.
I get
Yeah.
it. No, it's-
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
one of your favorite events that you guys have every year for families? Because you guys do so many things throughout the
So
year.
we actually have our kind of holiday party coming up, and we have Santa Claus. For some of our families, this is the chance to take that picture they can use on their holiday cards and send out to families. our Santa is amazing. He will have kids get out of wheelchairs and sit in his lap, where, that's not the mall Santa, right? Like, some of our kids are trached and vented or have feeding tubes, and he feels comfortable with all of that. So just a chance for our families to come. We hold it in our backyard. We have this amazing space, this amazing playground and yard area. All of our families come. They get a chance to meet Santa. Our teen board is going to be putting on all of the activities, so they've been working on planning that. They just met this week. And a chance for our families to get to know each other. Our kids sometimes get to know each other in the house during their stays, but this is a chance for families to get to know each other too. We have organizations that do toy drives for us around the holidays, so we'll be giving out presents at the party. It's an amazing time, and it's so nice to see families. Oh, and siblings come too, of course.
Yeah, and I would imagine people just experience normalcy.
Yeah.
Right? That's the coolest part.
Yeah.
They're all there in an environment they feel really comfortable in.
It's funny. I know Shelby talked about COVID, and we don't really want to go back to those dark days, but when we had our first holiday party after kind of really that shutdown period, it was the place where our families felt safe coming. These are all medically fragile kids.
Of course.
But they knew that we would be doing it right, and that we would be taking all the precautions that they needed. And for some of them, this was the first place that they had been after kind of all of that shutdown.
Man.
Yeah.
So, Ryan House, when you say it, I think like, okay, it's a destination. Is it in fact a house?
It is.
Yeah?
It is. It's a house. We have 8 rooms for kids.
Okay.
We have 3 rooms for families. So if a child is there for end of life, families can stay right on the facility with us. We also have what we call our first stay program. So the first time a child stays, we invite family to stay with them too, because we really want families to teach us how they care for their child, but we also want them to see the care that our nurses and CNAs are going to provide, so that when they leave their child, they feel comfortable and they don't feel anxious about it.
You mentioned it, so I want to talk about it for just a second. And I know it's not the sexiest, greatest thing in the world to talk about, but let's talk about end of life, because it's very real for these families.
Yeah.
And you said it. There's kids that aren't going to live into adulthood, and you're going to be there with these families, again, going back to what an honor, in those final moments. How do you support families in those times?
We really try to find out what it is that child and family wants during that time. And some families just aren't sure because it's just so stressful. We have a child life specialist who does an amazing job of talking to parents, to talking to siblings, talking about what is going on and what are things that family wants to do. So it may be a younger child, and they may have a bucket list of things that they want to accomplish before that child passes. That might be swimming. We have an amazing indoor swimming pool where we can do that. We can have a beach party if that's what they're looking for. We've done Christmas in July because they want to get to Christmas and that child isn't going to make it to Christmas. So really, just about anything. I think our philosophy is to say yes, and then we'll figure out how to make it happen.
Find a way.
Yep.
Oh,
yeah.
Great philosophy.
Yeah, and the work that you and that your whole team does, it's really, I'm just sitting back. It's heavy. What piece of advice could you give our audience that keeps you going on a daily basis, that inspires you?
Sure.
Because you have perspective.
Yes.
So
you
one
see
of
it
the
all.
amazing things about the house is because we do respite and end of life care, you really get to see that spectrum, right? So I walked out of my office a couple weeks ago, and one of our preteens uses a communication board, and she wheeled up to me and she asked if I wanted to play hide and seek.
Oh.
And I had just come off of 3 hours of Zoom meetings, so the answer was yes. So, and to be able to just spend a few minutes with her was incredible. And that's the thing about the house. When the kids are at the house, they are making memories and creating legacies. This same little girl, there's an amazing Instagram video from a couple weeks ago when she was at the house, same stay. She got to play fairy godmother. So she went around to all the staff with her communication board and asked them what their wish was. And then she granted wishes. So one of the staff said they wish they had a crown. So she went to the craft room and found a crown. One of our nurses thought she was being a smart aleck and said she wanted a horse. So she went and found a plastic horse and brought it to her. So, just the fact that these kids feel like they can just, one of our teens said, he was very sweet. He wrote a letter for me, and he said he just feels like he can use that energy, that he might use to fit in someplace else, just to have fun and to make friends and feel comfortable in this setting that for them is kind of different than where they are on a daily basis, especially at school.
I watched your video, and I think the comment that really kind of touched me was like, I feel like I belong here.
Yeah.
And that's a cool thing.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
what do you do for people? Well, I help them feel like they belong. Top
Right.
that. What are you doing with your life?
And in that scenario, I mean, I just
Yeah.
don't think that's top shelf.
It's
Somebody
the
would say
top
it's
shelf,
the top shelf.
man.
Yeah.
It is the top
Yeah.
shelf.
It really is giving these kids an opportunity to just live their best life while their family gets a break from all of that care that's required.
Okay, so let's wind down with her. And I want to ask you, you've been on the receiving end of 100 plus women
Yes.
who care before.
Yes, this last quarter, which was very exciting.
And so you got up, you told everybody about Ryan House.
Actually, one of their members got up and told our story for us. I know. Isn't that incredible?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even
she
better.
studied hard.
What were you able to do with the money? I want to help people understand, like, dollars come in, what do they translate to?
It costs us $1,000 a day to have a child stay at the house. We have top-notch nursing care, and that's what these kids need, and that's what families need in order for the kids to be able to stay with us. So it pays for those nurses. It pays for that child life specialist who's all about making those kids' dreams come true on a daily basis. So that's really where our money goes. It may be, depending on the day, some of our kids eat, have tube feedings and special diets, but some of our kids are eating food. And one of our teens loves to make hamburgers. So he and our child life specialist every stay come up with the most creative hamburger they can. And so their thing is they'll go and purchase the supplies and make it for everybody in the house. So those are the things that, the donations that we get help to support is all of those activities and all the care that the kids get while they're staying with us.
Tell me the world's a terrible place. Like, I mean, that's what I keep thinking about on today's podcast. Like, convince me the world is terrible.
No, it's not. And spending time with Tracy, we got a chance to spend some time on the phone before the podcast, learning about her. I mean, really, again, like the amazing work. This is it for her. She said, "This is my
Dream job?
Dream job.
Oh, yeah,
this
absolutely.
Is it." She found her
Absolutely.
dream job, her passion, and she just absolutely loves it. And you can tell why. I mean, it's just. It really, and again, like I want to finish. I got one question about.
Okay, this will be the wrap up.
Yeah, the wrap up. Okay, looking to the future.
It's got to be the best one.
Looking to the future, what legacy do you hope the Ryan House to leave on the community?
Oh gosh, that is not a question I've ever gotten asked before.
Could you, Steve?
I like these.
You like these?
Way to go.
The stumpers.
The stumpers. The good stumpers, though.
That we are able to care for a group of kids who aren't getting care anywhere else. Ryan House is one of 3 facilities in the United States like ours, if you can believe that. So there are 54 in the UK who clearly has a very different health model than we do, but there are only 3 here in the United States. One of the reasons is we don't get reimbursement for most of the care that we provide, so we have to raise those funds every day. But the fact that Phoenix and Arizona has this in our community is absolutely amazing. And it's an amazing group of people who brought it here. And just that we were able to provide this level of care to our community, that's, I think, our legacy.
Yeah. Well, let me just say you're a living legacy currently. So you're already doing it. So I think you
Thank
guys
you.
have already achieved that level. And so I love that answer, though.
Thank you.
Congrats on all you're doing.
Thank you. And thank you guys for having me on.
Yes,
Yeah,
thanks for being a guest. Well, that'll wrap us up today. And I can't think, man. You booked this show out, and I saw these names on the list, and I thought, this is going to be a great show because all we're doing is talking charity today. All we're doing is talking about people giving back.
Heavy duty charity. This
Yes.
is heavy lifting.
Yeah, you're right. This is kind of the heavy lifting, isn't
Yes.
it? I mean, we're not talking about the easy stuff in life. This is the challenge.
Yeah, and again, all the everybody out there that we have on the show, doing good, working for the community, moving the needle. but there's just, again, there's different levels. Again, when we get into, kids and actually hands-on and where we went today, I mean, again, I say the word heavy lifting, and I don't know what else to say.
That's it.
It's amazing work.
Tracy, Lenord-Warner, thank you so much. Thank you to Shelby Pedersen with an EN. Yeah. Thank you so much to Annette Sellers from A New Leaf. And thank you to our sponsors, Bella Set and Brooklyn V's, for hyping us up every single week. And good job on it,
thank you.
buddy.
You too.
You heal up this leg now, okay?
Yeah, you too. Thanks.
Well, my legs are fine. I'm not in there trying to lift heavy weights. That's the first mistake you made.
And great job on your laptop charity. I'm glad we got a chance to talk about it. I want to learn more about that too. And we got to bring that up because that's an amazing thing too. Great job.
Thank you,
I'll tell
pal.
you that.
All right.
Appreciate you.
See everybody next time on our Move the Needle podcast. Have a great day.